friends and foes. Welcome to Brushwork Podcast. I have Brittany here today with me, Brittany Torres of The Social Atelier and Torres Fantasy Art. Go. That's Brittany. And I have her back on the podcast today, here to talk about your social media and why you're avoiding it. Why are you avoiding making it? It's time to make your content.
So let's be clear, she is not just talking to you listeners, she's also talking to me. I have been guilty of this as well. But hi, so glad to be back.
I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here to talk about this because I have so many people who I'm just like, why are you complaining that nothing's working when you're not posting social media? Why are you just not on the internet? And then complaining that you're not getting any shows. And then you're complaining about how nothing's working for you and you're just not there. Why?
I feel like we should preface this for your listeners to be like, this is not going to be the most like polished, beautiful interview. This is a conversation.
We're
like an honest, raw conversation. And I think when I was titling my points in my notes app when we first started talking about doing this episode, I titled it Uncomfortable Truths.
Mm-hmm.
And then right underneath it, I said, just do the damn work.
Just do the work. I get a lot of comments from people being like, oh, wow, this episode really helped motivate me. And I hope you're ready for this episode because we're here to motivate you.
Ready. I hope you're ready. It's called tough love. I have so much love for artists, right? Like, it's why I got into the business. I was working with artists. I was at like a 9-to-5, like nonprofit. So I don't know if you can call it corporate job, but it felt like a corporate job, like plug in, plug out. And I got to work with artists a little bit, but I saw from the, I had the perspective from the outside to be able to see where they were struggling. And so when I started this business, I was able to get in there and help artists more and help give them direction. But what I found, which was so interesting, is they didn't just need or crave direction. Like, they craved the structure. Mm-hmm. They craved the tough love. They craved the coaching. Because if you're anything like me, you need external motivation, right? You need well, maybe not motivation. Let me rephrase that. You need the external pressures, right? Mm-hmm. We have internal motivators and we have external motivators. You obviously have both, but for certain things, one can be stronger than the other. This is coming straight from my therapist. And so I know that for me, for example, I have a strong internal motivation to like create, to be an artist, to pursue the things that make me happy and I find interesting. And that's the good stuff. Now, getting that done in a timely manner, that has to be an external motivator. I have to have some sort of pressure, like lid on me so that I build up pressure and I build up momentum. Mm-hmm. It could be an art show. It could be accountabilities, body doubling. Hey, Twitch.
Hey.
Why do you think Twitch is so helpful?
It's so great.
But also it could be like having a coach, or in this case, a podcast where you're listening to it. And maybe this is, kind of the little kick that you may have been needing. You're like, oh, I just haven't been able to get going on my social media. I can't get started, blah, 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 whatever it is. Maybe this is the kick you need. And I say it with all love, but also you got to get to doing the work.
Shall we start this with a little self-call out? It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. I haven't posted to Instagram in 2 weeks.
How dare you?
How dare I? I haven't updated my blog in, months. And I'm realizing that my problems is that I am a one-focused horse here, one-trick pony, mm-hmm. where I focus on one platform and then I forget about the others that I've dedicated hours and actually years into, and that's my thing. So yeah,
and it's because right now you're being driven by this like an external motivator. Mm-hmm. You have this big trip coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You have these commission pressures on you, you know,
Yeah.
like you have these other things that are pulling away your attention, and distraction is going to be one of the topics we're getting into. Yes,
Definitely.
we have listed topics. So this is not going to be as crazy. Well, no, it might be a crazy conversation, but I think that it's super easy to kind of drop the social media ball when you're juggling multiple at a time.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You've got multiple going, and we'll get into this more, but I think that social media is the first ball to drop.
Yes.
Because of all the reasons we're going to go into, all the reasons why we think that this is the one we can let go of first, but we're going to get into why it's essential for your business. I'll do my call out. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. Hi. I haven't been on social with my business for like a year.
Oh, wow.
How about that? Since about our last podcast recording.
Holy cats.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Just to share with the audience the Cliff Notes version of the Social Ateliers last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last time you heard from me, we were doing a really fun interview, and we ended talking about, hey, I'm going to be launching this app. All these things are coming up for the Social Atelier. And then boom, about a month later, I severely break my dominant wrist.
Ouch.
So broken bone, nerve damage, soft tissue damage, pretty intense surgery. We don't need to go into all of it, but
That's a
basically
lot.
very, very intense surgery and about 9 months of physical therapy to recover.
Damn.
So when you are, you know, on pain meds and trying to, you know, learn to rebrush your hair, social media is not.
It's not the priority.
Not forefront.
It's
No.
not at the top.
So my whole business, I ghosted my entire business, and people were so kind who reached out, and I just so appreciate, you know, the tribe that I've found in artists here. But I just kind of ghosted everybody, including my social media. And you know what? I felt really bad about it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't anymore, because
Good.
I know that I was taking care of myself first.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the blessing of financially that it was okay that I walked away from the business for a while.
Yeah.
So now, about a year later, I'm happy to say I almost have like full function of my wrist. I experience very little pain, and we're just getting better every day. And
wow.
You were so kind to let me jump in on a podcast with you to kind of restart the gears, get back and going, dip my toe in. I miss it. I miss the artists, and I miss hanging out with you, and I'm excited to be back. But that's to say, guilt is a big driving force in people not getting on social media to begin with, and also staying off social media once they're off. So guilt is actually, I don't think it's on our list.
It's not on our list, but we should talk about it.
It's not on our list. But so that's the addendum to the list is guilt, either from getting on or from getting off. If you got off, maybe you were feeling like me, like, why should I get back on? I abandoned my audience. I'm so embarrassed. Like all of these feelings, or the guilt of, well, I haven't been on, which I guess you probably don't feel, but like to use you as an example.
Yeah, use me.
You haven't been on. I've been avoiding my blog. I feel guilty for the work that I haven't done. And somebody's going to see that. Somebody's going to acknowledge the work that I've done. That's what the root of it is. The guilt is the worry that somebody else is going to notice and acknowledge our lack of work. And our lack of accomplishment. And that's where that guilt feeling comes from. Isn't that interesting to think about?
The guilt is strong. And I always find that when you are into the guilt mindset of why you're not making content of any kind, you think about, okay, I feel bad because I'm not making things, right? Instead of thinking, I feel bad, but I'm also making things for a purpose. And you kind of forget about the purpose, and you start thinking about why you feel bad. And when you start thinking, okay, when I make Instagram posts after not posting for 2 weeks, instead of feeling guilty about not doing it and feeling kind of like you let yourself down, you have to think, okay, I'm making Instagram content because I want to sell my art. And by making it now and posting tomorrow, then that restarts the cycle and here we go back up again. And there's no need for the guilt. You know, you could also, there's this one YouTuber I like to watch. And when she started, she made like a video, I don't know, like every week or so. And then years went by and she started making videos like once every 3 months. And now she starts all of her videos with, I'm back, as if like it's her brand to just be like late and not have any sort of on-time content.
She embraced it. That's shifting that mindset to being like, what am I going to do? And I'm going to roll with it. It's that quote, and I have no idea who says this. It's one of those things that float around on Instagram. So I apologize. I don't know who the original person who said this is. Could have been The Rock. I don't know. But he says, you know, is it one day, like one day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to get back on social. Or is it day one?
Is it one day or day one? That's delicious. That tastes
day
good.
One. And that's how I was feeling about the podcast. Like one day I'm going to start up my podcast again. Start it up. I only got 5 episodes in. And then I got, the first I got sick. And then, which I hadn't shared with a lot of people, I was going through extreme anemia and I was very sick. And so this is PSA for everyone out there. Don't wait. If you're not feeling well, just go. Just go get it figured out. Don't wait. So I, you know, right after that is when I had my broken wrist. So it just kind of compiled. And the first thing to go when I started feeling bad was my podcast, which I had just started. I was only 5 episodes in. And you've seen it. I have a whole notebook full of podcast ideas and interviews. And
there's like 40 ideas in there. It's beautiful.
I know. It's like a year's worth of content. And I was like, let's go. This is going to be amazing. And it was the first thing to drop when I wasn't feeling well. And so I've had this feeling, I was like, I've gotten better. I'm healed. I'm healthy. One day I'm going to start up my podcast and it's going to happen. And guess what hasn't happened?
It's not day one yet.
Because I didn't have that mindset. I was like, well, one day I'm going to do this. But really what I was doing was just sitting in this guilt of the fact that I didn't start it. I only had this many episodes, whatever it was. I was sitting with this guilt. And so for me, I was like, I want it to be day one. When is day one going to be? What's feasible for that? And I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready to start day one. So what I did is you find, okay, what's standing in my way of day one? And you figure that out. You find out, and this is why we've made this list, which we haven't got to, but the list of, you know, identifying the root issues, right? So my root issue, I figured out, which was kind of like step, 0.5, was that I was so out of practice. I was scared to record my podcast. And that's when I immediately texted you and said, hey, what do you think about doing a podcast together again? I really would love to ease back into it with a guide that I trust.
That's so cute and also like such a good tactic. If you're like, I am scared to start in on a project and you can do it with somebody else, even if it's like, I don't know how to write an Instagram caption and you have a friend who you think is kind of good at it, you should just call them up and schedule an hour and be like, can you help me write these?
What you're doing, it's not a cop-out. It's finding tools.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I do feel like artists really struggle with, is what we feel the need to figure it out on our own. Like find a way, figure it out on our own, because we were taught like, just go do it. But we weren't taught, hey, first find the tools,
right? Like
you're just go paint that painting, Stephanie.
Just go do it.
Instead of somebody, and I've talked with a friend about doing a TED talk on the word, how much I hate the word just. It's so I have to stop myself because I feel so strongly about it. But like, just go start that painting. That is ridiculous. If I was to instruct you how to do it, I'd be like, go grab your brush
Mm-hmm.
and your paints
Mm-hmm.
and walk up to the canvas and put, step by step by step. Like, this is how you do it. Just go start on Instagram. Just go make that post. Just go start that podcast back up again. Immediate overwhelm.
Totally.
Like, it is so frustrating. And so one of the roles of a coach is that external motivator to come in, but also to give you like steps, like to give you tools to use. So like when we revamped your social or we revamped your website, I wasn't like, hey, just go,
just fix it.
Spruce up your website, have fun. Like, let me just chuck you into the deep end of the pool while I'm at it. Like, I gave you the tools to do it, and then you ran with it, right? Because once artists and creatives are given the proper tools and the proper breakdown of here are the steps to take, they can run with it and do amazing things with it.
It's because y'all artists are pretty awesome. You're like, oh, I have a vision now. I have steps I can do things with. Let's go. And, Brittany and I have steps for you today on why you're avoiding making content and how to defeat these avoidances. And I think it's time to go through the list that we've been alluding to.
It is. It is. But I am appreciative of everyone listening and just being here with us, because it's good for people to hear about the struggles that, we go through, because it's easy. So often I'll be listening to a podcast and I'm just like, oh, these people know what they're talking about.
They got it together.
They don't have the same struggles that I do.
They're perfect.
And I'm here to burst that bubble. And that's why we're just having fun, making it casual, but letting you know, hey, like, this is like, while we do have good advice, we struggle with it too, because we're all in this together.
I basically make every podcast episode as a reminder to myself of what to do. Like tools. Every single one. Yeah.
It's your tools and it's your external motivator, and it keeps you accountable. And I love that. And I think more artists should have podcasts. I need so much to listen to.
Yeah, there's not very many of them. And there's not very many of them that are more than a single episode. So I'm just saying, it would be sweet.
I need a minimum 20-minute podcast. If your podcast episode is less than 20 minutes, I won't listen to it, because I use it as a gauge to go on a walk with my dog.
Oh, I love that.
So I have to have 20 minutes or like a 40-minute episode or 2 20-minute episodes. And I use it to just tell like how long I've been walking my dog.
That's pretty great.
And so there's a lot of podcasts out there. So anyone who's wanting to start a podcast, just think about that. 12-minute episode.
What are your listeners listening to? Or what are they doing while listening? I know a lot of you are making art right now, so I appreciate that you've got brushwork on. All right, should we start with our list?
We should.
Okay.
We absolutely should.
Number 1 on our list of why you're avoiding making content for social media is distraction. Do you ever feel like painting is the most important part of your art business? Because I felt that way for many, 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 many years, until I realized that, I'm not selling art because I'm not putting any time into my social media, because I feel like if I work on my website or I work on my social media posts, I am taking time away from painting, and that's just wrong.
A lot of artists feel like if they work on social media, if they put time, because I've always said in all of my trainings, time is your most precious commodity as an artist. It's not creativity. Shocker. I know. But it's actually time, because where you choose to put your time is where you're going to be productive, and at the end of the day, where you're going to make money. And if you put all your time into painting, that's wonderful, but that doesn't mean you're going to make money, you're going to have a beautiful studio full of artwork.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be gorgeous.
It doesn't get out into the world. You have to do the marketing. You have to do the business side of things, right? But artists feel so strongly their attachment to their artwork and to their traditional values and to, all of the years and years that they've spent putting into this artwork, to then have to step away from that and go into a marketing headspace and out of the studio. They're like, that is going to take away from my time here in the studio. It's going to take away value. It's going to take away, all of this focus that I have. It's a distraction. Social media is a distraction for me. Not worth it. It's not worth walking away and stopping in the middle of this painting to take a photo or set up my camera or whatever.
Right.
It's not worth it. Right.
And gosh, there is some truth to it. You are taking time away from your artwork, but it's not away from the artwork. It's in a different way of supporting the artwork. It's not that taking time away from painting is detrimental to your painting. It's taking time away from the painting to set up your camera to therefore, make content for the internet. It's getting an audience to your work instead of just you looking at the work. And that is equally important. It's part of the collective
added value.
Yeah, it's added value. And you have to change your mindset from thinking, oh, it's just someone's going to look at it for 2 seconds and then go away. But I mean, that might be the instance indeed. But it's changing your mindset from looking at your artwork as just your artwork to looking at your artwork as someone who might want to buy your work. It's showing people what you have. It's not distracting from your artwork. It's adding to your artwork. That's what I meant to say. That was a very roundabout way of getting there.
No, it's so true. It's this mindset that we have of I am an artist. That is what I do. Anything else is a distraction. Right?
Right.
And I am solely an artist. And this is great. So we're just gonna dive right into my biggest point, okay, of this whole thing. If you're still with us, if you're still listening, first of all, I just so appreciate you. But also, please have this be the biggest takeaway. All right. And this is the tough love. Okay. If you can get through this, you can get through the rest of this episode. If you want to just be an artist and not have to do social media, do marketing, all of that crap, right? Go work for a company. If all you want to do is make art, because I hear it. This is the thing I hear over and over, the pain point from artists. I didn't sign up to be a content creator. I didn't sign up to be a content creator. Nowadays, I'm forced to be a content creator when all I want to do is make art. Absolutely. You can still do that. You can absolutely just go pump out art every single day. If that's what you want, do it. You know how you do that? You get hired by a company that tells you what to make, and you just make art.
Or you stay as a hobbyist.
If you want to say, no, I want to say in what art I make, in the direction of my artwork and how much artwork I produce, I want the control over that, over my creativity. Well, then guess what? You have to be an independent or freelance artist. That is the two choices. That is how it works, right? If you want to just make artwork, go get a stable, steady art job, and you absolutely can do that. And they are out there. Fantastic. I have a client who was like, I just want to work on movies and make creature art. And he moved to California. He's building up his portfolio and he's going to get hired by an amazing studio. I'm so proud of him. And they're going to tell him, make this artwork, and he's going to go make this amazing artwork. Right?
It works.
But on the other hand, I have artists going, well, no. I want to do what I want to do. But at the same time, I don't want to do all that business marketing stuff. They go hand in hand.
They
and
do.
This is what I'm getting at, is if you want to have full control over your art and your art business, you have to switch into the mindset of that it is a business,
Mm-hmm.
and that content creation is not content creation. It's marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the new era and the new way of marketing. So if you want to sell your artwork yourself, you have to make content. Even if you want to get into a gallery, a lot of times they're looking for a healthy following from you, a healthy audience. Are you worth investing in
Mm-hmm.
if you are new to them, right? If you're trying to get in with them, a lot of times they do look at that. The way you do that is having a healthy social media following, audience, and relationship. They go hand in hand. So the first thing we need to have you do is start thinking not as content creation. It's a distraction. It's not worth my time. That's what we're saying at the end of the day, I think, is when we're saying, oh, it's a distraction. I don't want to focus on that. You're saying that's not worth my time. My time, we're coming back to
Mm-hmm.
time is my most precious commodity. It's not worth doing this. It will only distract me. And we have to shift in that mindset of, this is my marketing. This is how the world sees the beautiful art that I have made, and I can control the narrative of how I'm talking about my art, what story my art says. I can control all that because I control my content. I control my marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, in fact, absolutely worth your time. So the next time you get yourself going, oh, I didn't sign up to be a content creator.
Ugh, I have to do this.
Actually, as an independent artist, I hate to break it to you, but you did. You did sign up to be a content creator because it's 2023.
Yeah.
This is how the marketing world works right now. And yes, it does look very different than it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Absolutely. And that shift, I acknowledge that shift can be really hard to get used to. It can be tough, but it's how it is. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you want to play, you better step up to the plate. Like, this is what it takes. So the question now is not, is it worth my time? It's, are you willing to play the game? Are you willing to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people aren't.
And it's okay if you're not, but you just need to acknowledge that and not complain to people when it's not working out. You know?
It's the go-to. And honestly, it's the go-to excuse. And I'm going to call it like I see it. It's the go-to excuse for when they aren't seeing the sales results, the dollar results of their artwork. The first excuse I heard is like, well, I didn't sign up to be a content creator. This is taking up all my time.
Ugh.
This is ridiculous. Like, all of those things.
I hate that.
So this is, if you take away anything from this episode, know that with love, I'm telling you to play the game. You can do it. Like, if this is what you want, absolutely. And there are awesome tools out there, one of which, listen to this podcast. Stephanie gives you amazing tools every single week of how to be an artist in today's modern day and age, right? Because it's not easy. No one said it was easy. If it was easy, everyone would be an artist,
it's
a
so
professional
hard.
working artist. We would all not be struggling. We'd be like, this is a piece of cake.
Mm-hmm.
So having that autonomy, having those extra responsibilities, wearing those extra hats of being a content creator, being an artist, being a business owner, it's a lot. And a lot of people don't want to carry all that. And so that is when you maybe go to a 9-to-5 job where other people can make those decisions and you can focus on doing that one thing that you really love, or it's very specific, which is totally fine. And I think that that's just personality, right?
Yeah.
My personality doesn't really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like being able to call the shots. But with that comes the responsibility of having to wear those other hats and saying, content is not a distraction. It's actually added value. It's added marketing. This is how I get my stuff out into the world, to my social media.
You have to change the way you speak around social media and around content creation for you to stop thinking of it as a distraction. Instead of I am forced to make content, it's I get to make content. Instead of I have to make myself, presentable for social media, it's I get to show the world my art. And when you change your language, it's going to be forced at first, but eventually it's going to change your whole mindset and how you look to how you engage with your Instagram, your TikToks, your whatever. You're going to start going onto it and being like, oh, I'm excited to post. I'm excited to look for new trends. I'm excited to engage with collectors or other artists. And it becomes fun. It becomes a joyful new kind of creative work that is not distracting, but in addition to.
Day one.
Yeah.
Shifting that mindset shift. It's one of the things that I spend the most time with when I do coach people, is that you'd think that we spend all of our time, I've had coaching packages where we worked together for 12 weeks. The first 4 weeks are dedicated to mindset work and brand, rebranding them.
Yeah.
4 weeks. That's a lot of time. And they're like, what?
You're like,
time?
When are we getting
my
into
most
hashtags?
Precious commodity. You spent 4 weeks. It's like, yes, because it sets up your foundation. So if you can get your mindset figured out here, then you are going to be able to really take off after that. You're building a foundation. You're building your springboard to be able to go from here into the smaller things that, well, we do have listed below. This is just topic 1. But it's the one I feel the most strongly about.
Yeah.
Right? It is the one that I hope resonates with the most people, is that because it is the one that I hear the most over and over. And I haven't even been, very involved lately over the past year, like we said earlier. And yet I still hear it. I saw a post the other day and it just set my blood to boiling.
Yeah.
And actually why I texted you, and I was like, you know what? I think we need to do a podcast about. And it was a photographer, and they were making this reel, ironically, that said, I didn't sign up to be a content creator. I just want to do photography. And I was like, ironically, that you made a reel out of this, which is hilarious.
That is funny.
But it's not just pertaining to fine artists. It's not just pertaining to artists in general. It's for any creative, anybody who has a small business. I didn't sign up to be content. Well, you
are now. Congratulations.
Just replace content with marketing. Right. And see how that sounds. I'm a business owner, and I didn't sign up to do marketing. You're like, wait.
You're like, hold on.
Doesn't make it.
That's not a business.
I'm an artist, and I didn't sign up to make content, have to make content. Replace that with, I'm a small business owner, and I didn't sign up to have to do my own marketing. Now it sounds kind of...
It's silly.
Silly. So I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. Being like, I don't want to do this. I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to do all of this. It is a kick of hopefully motivation and tough love that, yes, we actually need to.
You gotta, you get to.
Part of the package.
It's going to be so fun.
You get to.
You get to make content, and it's going to be great. All right. That was our number 1 distraction. So we're not distracted from making content. We are, in addition to painting, in addition to making collages or sculptures or whatever, you are also making content for the betterment of your business as a whole. Amazing. All right.
Added value, marketing.
Number 2 is lack of authenticity. Okay. Do you ever fear that making content and making a lot of it on social media will just kind of cheapen your work and just make it seem insincere, make it seem fake, just make it seem, I don't know, because you don't want to sell out, and that's stopping you from making any sort of content on the regular. You ever feel that way?
I don't, but but it's because I have a different view of social media than a lot of artists might, because I hold space as both a social media marketing coach. So I have that objective kind of viewpoint.
Yeah.
But I'm also an artist. So I hold that space as well. So sometimes I do have that like headspace and heart space kind of at conflict, but I don't usually feel that way. But I do see so many artists who do.
I felt like this in the past.
Do you?
Not currently, but when I was first starting out in like 2015 or so on Instagram, I was like, if I'm just posting all the time, people are going to get sick of my work. They're going to be like, it's not great. It's like I'm just selling out. Like I'm, and they won't want my work anymore. They won't want to see what I'm doing, and they'll get tired of me. And just producing content just to produce content is just, I don't know. Like I remember feeling like seeing people who were like, now I consider to be on top of their game with social media posting back in 2015, right? Which was a hard thing to do then. Nobody knew what they were doing. And just being like, I'm seeing this person all the time. I'm sick of seeing them. I don't want their work anymore. I just felt like judgmental of them for like posting so much. And just, I was just like, this work is just not great. Like, or even if it was great, actually, I should go back and look at this person I'm thinking of in particular, because I'm sure it was actually like phenomenal. And I was just being so judgmental because I was comparing it to myself. But like, they just seemed like a sellout. And that's why I didn't want to do that to myself. But then I was like, wait, no, I do want to sell my work.
I think too, that might have been the era of when social media, it had been around for a couple of years, but it hadn't solidified as the new marketing, mogul that it is.
True.
Right? It was just this other thing that some people did, some people didn't. It wasn't a blanket statement like you have to do this now. And things have changed. So definitely how you felt back then versus how you would see that same person now probably is really different.
Very.
I see a lot of people who have this feeling of diluted authenticity. I usually see it with clients who are, and so my Brittany-isms, right? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you on social media? Or are you using social media?
Ba-bing!
Da-da-da. So that a lot of times that feeling of diluted authenticity, I like how we say that, because artists often feel that way dependent on how they're using social media. They perceive it as how they're viewed on social media, right? You feel like, oh, if I'm posting a lot and people aren't going to see it, all those things you just said to me, right? But in fact, it's more about how you're choosing to portray yourself on social media. And if you're just on there willy-nilly, throwing things on there, you are portraying a lack of authenticity in your purpose. So if you become more purposeful in how and why you use social media, are you using social media? Are you on there with purpose, with intent? All of a sudden, your posts are more purposeful. They're more organized. They're getting you to a place. They're directing your following to what you want them to see, what you want them to think. And I guarantee you, your audience will see that, will recognize that, and will enjoy your social media, because that's why they're following you.
That's why they're here.
They're not going to be sick of seeing all of your stuff
Mm-hmm.
if there's purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be sick. I'll tell you what I get sick of.
What do you get sick of?
It's like we're laying out all the truths today. I get sick of seeing posts that somebody obviously threw up there and the caption, and I'm like, what am I looking at? And it could be a great photo, but it says like, oh, I guess I'll like just share this. I don't know. I'm not sure that I like it. Whatever.
I hate self-deprecation in comments. I'm like,
There's ways to do it. Like if you're doing it with a intentional way, being like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, and your tongue in cheek, self-deprecating, that's a thing, right? We're talking about, whatever. I don't know. I'm just posting because the algorithm says I have to. Oh, you just lost points with me because I have a very limited amount of feed space. Your feed, you can be following 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
You're only gonna see 200 to 300 accounts regularly.
Yeah.
The algorithm, no, that's how it works. It's not going to show you 10,000 new posts a day.
Mm-mm.
The algorithm is, people are going to hate this, Stephanie. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
the algorithm is your friend. It's trying to work for you. But if you give it no direction, if you give it no help, if you're just like, think of ChatGPT, if you're just sitting there with a text box and you don't type anything of it, nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to happen.
So you have to tell it what to do. If I'm like, I haven't seen Stephanie's artwork for a while, well, it's because I haven't been going to your page. I haven't interacted with any of your posts lately. Mm-hmm. So the algorithm says, you must not be interested in Stephanie's post. I will show you a different artist that you follow because you follow 10,000 accounts, right? It's trying to choose, hey, I'm trying to give you what you're interested in seeing.
Yeah.
Now, think about it from the other side. Think about it from the posting side. If I'm posting and I'm just slapping up a photo saying, I don't care about this, bleh, here you go. Am I going to get any engagement on that?
Probably not.
Probably not. Which means I just dropped in the list of accounts that you see and you follow because you didn't engage with me. So a lot of times we can blame the lack of authenticity of being on social media, of it diluting our brand and all of these things. But instead, it's actually a lack of authenticity in how we approach it and how we use it. So because you used to feel this way, but now, especially over the last 2 years, I would say, you've approached your work, Stephanie, with so much more intent when it comes to posting on social media. Do you still feel like you're diluting your brand, that you're not authentic online?
Not even a little. Yeah, that's gone. Yeah.
Right. You're just, it's out of here.
It's out of here. I don't have use for that anymore. Yeah, again, we're just going to keep talking about changing mindsets here, but I started thinking about, okay, if I want authenticity in my posts, that means each thing I post needs to have some sort of purpose, like Brittany was saying. And that purpose is either to get people to my shop, it's to tell them about the podcast, it is to inspire them about their work, it is to show them cool things about my work, little details, it's to show them who I am as an artist, et cetera, right? So, and it doesn't have to be like a lot of work with each post, but each one has very clear purpose. And I make sure the image leads to that and the caption leads to that. And that's how you continue to have authenticity. Yes, you're trying to sell your work, but also you're like, hi, I'm a cool artist. And you like this. I know you like this because you follow me. So here's some cool things.
And I would say trust in your audience, right?
Right.
They didn't click follow because they
had to
care about your
right.
They're like, this gal's a sellout.
Yikes.
I'm going to follow her.
I'm going to follow her.
So have that trust in your audience and have that trust in yourself, and also have the respect for your artwork. Support your artwork like a fan, right? Not just yourself, but support your artwork like you're the fan. You're like, I want you to be seen. I want you to be seen in the world. This is how you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
There are if you're a fine artist listening, there's very few galleries out there. There's not enough for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Social media, treat social media like your gallery. This is how your work is going to be seen. And I've had artists sell work, still wet on the easel off of their newsletter.
Yeah.
I've seen you sell commissions because someone saw you painting on Twitch,
mm-hmm.
right? People like what they're going to like. So be true to yourself, but represent yourself. So producing content actually is, if we come full circle,
yeah,
it's actually showing respect to your artwork. It's showing respect to yourself as an artist and saying, this is what I make.
Mm-hmm.
Take pride in it.
Have some pride.
Excited about it, right? And be like, I want to share this. You don't make art. Well, maybe some people do, but the majority of artists make art to share.
Mm-hmm.
They want to share it. They want to put it out in the world. For a long time, I made artwork just for myself.
And that's perfect.
I don't want to share. It's like, no one needs to see this. I'm just making it for myself. I had to get pushed to be in my first art show. I didn't want to sign up. Did I ever tell you that? I
No.
did not want to be in that art show.
Was this from your mentor?
Yes. My art mentor. So I make fantasy artwork. I'm very different. I have no physical painting skills like Stephanie. And so I make digital artwork, and my art mentor was like, you have to be in this show with me. Come apply, be in the show. I'm like, no one wants to see that. And he's like, Brittany, you're going to be in the show.
Get in the show,
like,
Brittany.
I don't want to be in the show. And I had no pride in my artwork. I didn't want to show it off. Now I cannot sign up for a show fast enough. I literally emailed an art director yesterday being like, hey, when are applications opening?
Want to see my artwork?
Want to see my artwork?
It's so cool.
Because I've found the value of sharing it. And you know what? My audience is so helpful. I find my audience to be so helpful. They help me in making decisions. They help me in like saying, oh yeah, we love those colors. Or I don't know what to name this. Hey, like audience, what do I name it? I find so much value in my audience. And having shared those things on social media, having shared it in person, like that is my authenticity. Like being proud of my artwork, sharing it, putting it out there in the world. So you're not selling out by posting. You're actually doing everything right.
You're doing everything right, and it's good. And I think
you're doing good, kid.
You're doing great. You gotta share it because it's fun. Not to put any creative pressure on you, but this leads us to our third point.
What might that third point be?
It's creative pressure. Do you ever feel like you're like, I don't want to post on social media because I just have to post so much for it to be worth it? Oof. It's this constant output. It like never stops. It never ends. And if you do stop, then you're falling behind. And if I'm going to be burned out at this point because I have to create new things all the time. And it always has to be new and good and inspired and purposeful. I'm already exhausted thinking about it. Okay.
And that also makes people not want to ever start in the first place.
Yeah. I'm like, I get
like,
it.
I washed my hands of this.
I get it. I get not wanting to do it because it's so much pressure. And then you're like, you look at people who have like, they're on their game. They're posting every day. They got reels 3 times a week and they always look good. And you're just like, I can never even begin to make as much things as this person is doing. And it's a little demoralizing. It's true. Sometimes I still feel like this. This is my current like naysayer in making content is in my brain is this one. It's like every once in a while it shows up and I'm just like, it's just a lot. Like I know how to do it right, and to do it right feels like a lot of work, and it is work, but there's ways to overcome this and to change your the way you think about this, and ways to actually make things that you're proud of content wise, not artistically, because I don't know if you're proud of your artwork, but whatever. But to like make content that you're just like, oh, this is good, or even decent. This is decent. And I'm being consistent about it. So what do you think about creative pressure?
I'm going to actually disagree with you about something. I
tell
don't
me.
think you need to make decent content.
Bad content?
Yeah. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care what content you make. What I care about is consistent content.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get to a point where you're making consistent content, where you're like done, I mean, like done is better than perfect. Right?
Sure.
So if you can get over that perfectionism and you can just be I said it. If you can simply be putting out content at a consistent level,
Mm-hmm.
you are naturally going to start creating better content.
That's true.
If you go to my social media profile,
Mm-hmm. Which
and
one?
you scroll all the way down to the first posts in 2019,
To the deep,
they're
dark
real
pits.
bad. I even once thought about deleting them and archiving them
Oh,
because
wow.
I'm like, this looks like straight out of some template. And guess what? It was.
It was.
I was using templates and it wasn't authentic. It wasn't very good graphics. It was all over the place. Like it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good because you're comparing it to what you see of my social media now,
Yeah.
which is very branded, very put together, very consistent looking. But I started, and that's what mattered. And eventually I learned the skills of what worked best for me, what kind of content I wanted to make, videos. I learned how to make reels. I learned how to do this along the way. But if you try and start out by making good content, you're going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is obviously this is not for everybody. We're talking to those who really struggle with the creative pressure and finding it to be kind of that, paralysis pressure where you're like, I can't even start because of this overwhelming pressure that I see in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's kind of what Nicole talks about on her latest podcast. Plug Nicole's podcast.
I will. But in the show notes.
But she has this episode that is about the fear of success, because she says we talk about the fear of failure so much, but we rarely talk about the fear of success. And this applies to this situation where you are actually facing the fear of success when it comes to the creative pressure, because you are seen, and you just said it so well earlier that you're like, I feel the pressure to consistently put it out and to make this good content, and it never is going to stop and it keeps on going. That all is based in this fear of success, because you're like, if I start making that really good content, I have to keep making it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep putting it out. And then people are going to expect it from me. And if I don't put it out, then people are going to see that I'm not doing it. And then I'm going to become a failure while I'm being a success. And it just snowballs.
Right.
And so we're actually, surprisingly,
Mm-hmm.
not dealing with creative pressure. We're dealing with a fear of future success.
Ooh.
And what that might mean for us time-wise, energy-wise, emotional capacity.
And you're like, I don't even want to start. That sounds like a lot.
Right? Everyone right now listening is like, yeah, you just convinced me to never start my social media. And I'm guilty of it. Remember, I haven't posted in a year because I'm like, but I will say it's a little bit different. It's not from a place of fear of success, because I've had that already. And I know what it takes to keep that up. And I know that I have not been in a place physically and mentally where I can keep that up. And I know that that's not fair to me and it's not fair to my followers. So I haven't started yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel really good about it. I feel at peace with that. And I'm like, I'm going to start back up when I'm ready. That's a healthy spot to be in. What a non-healthy spot to be in is to be like, oh my God, I can't ever start. because of this and this and this, and this is gonna, you know, and then you blow a gasket and you're done.
You're done. Yeah.
You're just, you know, paralysis armadillo on the floor of your studio going, I can't do that. There's too much pressure.
There's a lie that we tell ourselves when we are thinking about posting consistently, is that the word consistent means every day. And it's not true. It's
Tell
not
the
true.
people so.
Consistency does not mean every day. Consistency means at regular intervals, no matter what that means for you. If that means once a week, great. If that means once a month, okay. If that means once a year, but you're like purposely making content once a year, like that person I was talking about earlier with the YouTube videos, great. Consistency can mean whatever schedule works for your life and your artwork.
Schedule. That's the key word right there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's replace consistent posting with scheduled posting.
Yeah.
So it's one of the first things I've always taught artists when we come to a social media. We first figure out your brand.
Yeah.
And we create structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we create a schedule. That's the last part of the structure, right? Because everyone wants to just jump to content. And I'm like, well, you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks me, like, how do I not burn out on social? It's one of my biggest questions at like workshops and lives. People are like, how do I not burn out on social? I'm like, well, what's your schedule? And they're like, what do you mean? What's a schedule?
What's a schedule?
And they're like, I just post when I have the content. I'm like, ooh,
yikes.
That is rough.
Pass.
I'm going to give you the quickest breakdown of how to do this, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
Don't post the day you create the content.
Wow.
I feel like I'm going to hear, like, I can already hear the crickets on the other end of the listeners being like, what the heck are you talking about? Okay, let me break it down like this, artist. You are painting. Mm-hmm. Let's use you, Stephanie.
Me.
You're painting.
Hi.
You're already on top of the game because you're making Twitch content while you're painting. But let's talk about Instagram.
Okay.
You are painting. Mm-hmm. And you have a great shot with your brush, and you get out your phone, you take a picture of, you know, your brush on the canvas. Oh, mm-hmm. It looks beautiful. What I want you to do is then put your phone away and keep painting. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, end of the week, whenever your scheduled content time is, you go and make an Instagram post. You either post it then, you post it for 2 days from now, whatever that looks like, depending on your posting schedule. But you don't interrupt your creative time for your marketing time. And that's why we teach the separate, like, marketing headspace and creative heart space. We don't let those cross because those are each important. And your creative heart space time, that's sacred, right? This is your creative time. This is who you are.
Yeah.
We're not going to interrupt that. So don't post right when you make the content. Put it away. And that is part of scheduling. So figure out when you're going to schedule. Maybe it's at the end of the day. You figure out your post for the next day. Mm-hmm. Great. That's a schedule. That's keeping with a schedule. So it's not just about when you're posting. It's about when you're making the content to not post it then, to not take away from that time. Because tell me if I'm wrong. Have you ever taken a picture, be like, oh, I should post this on Instagram. And then all of a sudden it's a half an hour later and you've been figuring out this caption and the cropping and everything. And your paintbrush is just like sitting there next to you.
Are you watching me in my studio?
You've gotten distracted.
Distracted.
We're going back to distraction. That is an example of yes, social media can be a distraction if you let it be like that. So what I want listeners to try doing, maybe just take this next week. When you capture your content, when you make your content, don't post it right away. Post it at a different time, when you're sitting down, when you're doing something else, when you're on the bus. I don't care, but don't do it in the studio. That is going to immediately take that pressure off of you.
I'm a huge fan. I do this all the time. Yeah.
So much. And then based on that, if you're like, I only post 3 times a week, and I post on Thursdays and it's Tuesday, of course I don't need to do anything with that picture right now. It's not even my post day because I figured out my schedule. So going back to what you said earlier, posting consistently doesn't mean every day. Some people, absolutely, every day. And that is fantastic. And maybe that's what their audience wants. That's what they need. My art account, I post very inconsistently. It's very bad. Again, I'd like to preface this with my art account. I am a hobby artist. I'm not trying to make a career out of my
That's very important.
artwork. So don't look at that. That's a bad example. But do look at Stephanie. She posts regularly, right? Like you post, you have a set schedule. You're like, this is how often I post. And that probably immediately takes the pressure off of you because now you're not trying to figure out when do I need to post. Now you're just figuring out what would I like to post.
Totally. My posting.
What do I get to post?
My posting
we're
schedule.
Going back to that mindset you said earlier. What do I get to do?
What do I get to do? It's so good. I am a huge fan of this advice. I am like constantly taking content photos or videos on my phone in my studio, but I am almost never posting same day, not even same week usually.
So proud of you.
I schedule out like a week or so in advance. With the podcast here, I schedule out 3 weeks in advance, which is kind of fun. And it keeps like it eliminates creative pressure by doing it this way. And then, you know, you have a day of the week where you're editing your content. You have a day of the week where you're writing your captions. You have a day of the week that you're scheduling the content. You're not having on your calendar, I'm posting this day and this day and this day. You're having a day where you're scheduling the content. If you're using a scheduling app or whatever, like that's helpful.
There's a bunch of free ones out there.
Yeah. I use Later personally. I like it. It's been around for a while.
That's my favorite. Favorite. There are quite a few, but Later is my favorite. And the paid version will automatically post it for you.
It's so nice.
It's absolutely worth it. Just use it as a tax write-off. You can do it, artists. It's like $9 a month, maybe.
Yeah, it's cheap.
I don't know. It is such an investment because remember, time is your most precious commodity. If you can get that scheduled and just know that on Thursday your post will go out and you don't even have to worry about it, isn't that worth the
it's
time?
It's marvelous.
So Later, feel free to sponsor this podcast.
I'm just saying. It's good,
but it's absolutely worth it. When I was teaching my academy programs, my student Ashwini, she talked about someone on top of her social media game. That girl is a powerhouse when it comes to posting content, right? And making content. But I remember she was posting all over the place. And when we went through the academy lessons, she took the posting very seriously and the scheduling very seriously. And I remember her bringing me back her calendar as her homework, and she's like, this is the day I'm posting. And I was like, okay, because I taught my students how they could build their social media scheduling to be able to only do content on one day a month. Now, did everyone follow that? Can everyone follow that? Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Most people go with once a week. Ashwini, she's like, nope, I'm gonna do this. And she spends one day a month at the beginning of every month putting together her social media and scheduling it out. And guess what? The rest of the time, she's painting.
Making art.
She's making art. She's in the studio. She's taking, she's found where for her, she can lessen that creative pressure. So everyone's going to have different ways of doing that, lessening that creative pressure. And pinpointing where it is in the first place. That's your first step, right? Pinpointing. For me, it might be different than for you. Like maybe I have a really easy time making posts. And so I can do it the day before or the day of when I'm out of the studio and I'm back home or something. Maybe that's what works best for me. But finding where you're feeling the pressure, I think, it sounds lame, but like identifying it really is the first step, because everybody is going to have different creative pressures. But in general, a lot of us are going to feel the pressure to consistently produce content. And that is the reason for when it comes to creative pressure, why we're not getting on social media, why we're having the excuse of not being on it. Oh, I'm not on here because I can't handle
It's true.
the amount that I have to be on here in order to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But everyone's brand is different. Every account is different. Everybody's version of success is different. I have clients who have a fully very successful art career, and she posts like, I don't know, once a week maybe. But when she does, it's good.
It's good.
Right?
The quality is there.
Its quality is there, and people are eagerly awaiting it, and that's what works for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's taken off that pressure. She's like, I don't need to post consistently. Like, my audience, they're happy with whatever I give them. Like, that's awesome. I would like
We'll
to
take what I feed you. The queen.
So it's just to show different examples. Like, it kind of is all in our head a little bit, I think, of being like, I have to post this much. It's like, where'd you hear that? Who'd you hear that from?
Who lied to you?
Who lied to you?
Who hurt you?
It's one of those reasons I started, and again, I'm just trying to talk myself back into starting this podcast, but it's one of the reasons I started my podcast, which was I felt like all the business advice given online, that's what artists were getting fed and trying to use, and that doesn't work for them.
Right.
Because a lot of that business advice is post every day, do this, push this out. And I'm like, all of that business advice doesn't necessarily work for us creative entrepreneurs, right? So I like to try and translate that, being like, hey, okay, so maybe you don't need to post every day. For those listening who you're like, all right, cool, this is a lot of good advice, but I need a practical step. Like, what's a practical step to take off that creative pressure of like that consistent output? What I want you to do is to post 3 times a week. Choose your days, just like Stephanie said, choose your days of when you're going to post. Make that decision right now. Create that schedule. And then I want you to practice putting out content that is at a lower risk. And what I mean by that is risk is, it means how much time you're putting into put into a post, your like picture, write the caption, but also you're thinking at the same time, people are going to be reading this. What are they going to be thinking? You're putting in a lot of time and effort into that, which means the risk is higher of putting that out there. So I'd like you to practice putting out content that is at a lower risk, which is stories. So I'd like for listeners to try, just for this week, I'd like you to try doing 3 posts this week on scheduled days and doing 1 post in your stories.
It's great.
Just 1 story a day. It could be a picture of the sky. I did that the other day. I just put a picture up of the sky and being like, it's been a really busy day, but it's pretty outside. Isn't this nice?
And that's enough.
What's funny is I got a lot of comments back from it being like, oh, so nice to take a break. So it's just about showing up. If you can get yourself feeling like, I can do this, I can show up every day because I'm doing this lower risk story. It's going to disappear in 24 hours. It doesn't have to be polished. It can just be authentic. You can kind of start training yourself to withstand the creative pressure.
This is excellent. Excellent advice. This is excellent advice. I highly recommend it. Yeah, reduce your expectations and just
reduce your expectations.
And be a beginner almost in this. Just posting 3 times in a week in your stories, and that's it. It could be a picture of what you're working on. It could be a picture of your tools. It could be a picture of the sky. It could be a picture of the art book you've been reading. I don't know. It could be a selfie.
I share my
of
dog a lot on my stories because that's my life.
Yeah.
Like, just being casual. So 3 structured posts, but decide on the day. Okay, I'm going to do Tuesday. I'm going to do Friday. I'm going to do Sunday. Cool. I've made that decision. You're already halfway there.
Yeah.
Which gives you plenty of time to be making content, working on that video, whatever is, whatever you want. And then every day, just try making a story, and it's going to start building good habits. And, that book you guys read for a book club, Atomic Habits, right? So you're building your habit stacking, right? So if you've already built this habit of showing up on your stories every single day, regardless of what the story is, you've just shown up for it. If you can habit stack on top of that, being like, cool, I'm going to start showing up twice a day in stories. One's going to be personal. One's going to be about artwork.
Love it.
All of a sudden we're building on it. And then all of a sudden, maybe you are going to get to the point where you're posting every single day. Isn't that cool?
Amazing.
But you didn't just roll out of bed and be like, I'm going to post good, fantastic content every single day. I'm going to go from 0 to 100 and I'm going to be so successful at this.
That's a good way to light yourself on fire. It's a good way to perish.
Because not only are we setting ourselves up for failure, because people don't go 0 to 100 with new things.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, but you're also setting yourself up for the fear of success, of what does it mean when I do reach this and I'm not prepared? I didn't build healthy habits. I didn't build a good schedule. There's no way I can keep this sustainable, right? So we just, kind of, we're like, we're going to set off for the race, and we didn't put any gas in the tank. Good luck.
Good luck.
Right? But that's how we can start to pinpoint some of that creative pressure, and then also deal with it. Because burnout is a thing. And if you get burnt out and you end up hating social media, it's really hard to get back on.
Because then you'll have to re-listen to this episode, and then it'll be like a whole nother thing. Oh my gosh, no thanks.
But it is true. A lot of people will be focusing on how to get out of burnout. Ditch burnout. Boss babe up. So it's important that we talk about, burnout is real. The creative pressure is real. The expectation of consistent output is real. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to recognize it? How are we going to deal with it? How are we going to move on and embrace it as, this is part of the process. We need to create structure to deal with it as we go forward.
In wrapping up today's episode of why you are avoiding your content creation, we've got distraction. Remember, your art is not distracting you from social media, and social media is not distracting you from your artwork. In fact, it is a helping hand. Your authenticity with your posts matter. Have a purpose for what you're posting about, who are you talking to, and what is the main subject. And 3, figure out your posting schedule. Relieve some of that creative pressure. You'll get back into posting on social media, and it's gonna be super good. Where can people find you, Brittany?
People can find me at on Instagram at the.socialatelier. Yeah. And also in the future, I will be back on my podcast, which is the Social Atelier podcast with Brittany Torres. So we're going to be starting that up sometime here soon, and I'm looking forward to it. This has been a fun segue into getting back, being comfortable behind the microphone. All thanks to Stephanie.
I'm glad to have you here. It's been really fun. And I will have Brittany's where she lives on the internet linked in the show notes, along with other things that we've mentioned here in the podcast. And I'll write out that little social media schedule for you so you can have no excuse not to do it. It'll be so great.
I'm excited for people. I'm excited for them to feel validated and why this is so hard, but also be given some tools of okay, here's some next steps. Here's how you identify things and how we keep moving on. But also, maybe this was the tough love and the uncomfortable truths about why you haven't been on social media and why we really need you to get back on there. And if this is what helps you get back on there, awesome. Because I'm excited for people to feel happy about social media.
Right? If you ended up getting back onto social media because of this episode, you should send Brittany and I a DM because we will go and check out your posts.
Oh, absolutely. We're here for it. I always tell people, like, if I'm not your coach down on the field, no problem. I'm still going to be your biggest fan up in the bleachers with pom-poms.
I love it.
Cheering you on.
Woohoo! All right. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.